Hi, this is Shaun. In this video, I'm going to go over how to make some growing paint effects. So let's check it out. So I've got some paint effects trees and some vines that are growing over time. The other thing that I want to point out while we're getting started is that these paint effects we're viewing them in viewport 2.0. And usually, paint effects cannot be viewed in viewport 2.0 and, unless you convert them to polygons. So that's another thing that we've done. The final thing is I want to go over how to add a little bit of wind to some of these paint effects. So let's get started. So let's delete these objects and just switch back to default rendering, and let's create some trees. So I created some leafy trees. I've already made the ground paintable, and I just painted some. Now, I could specify the number of trees. I could reduce the number of trees if I put the sample density down there. And then in order to grow them, it's the flow animation properties that you want to modify. So I turn on time clip, and then I'll turn the flow speed up, and then I can specify the start time. So if I didn't want to start at 1, or at second 1, I could start growing these at, like, if I wanted to start them growing at right here, I could say, okay, start the clip at here, at 1. And that's pretty much it. I mean, you can also right click and set keyframes on these, or you could set keyframes on the flow speed as well. So you could animate parts of the growth more slowly than others, if desired. The other thing is how to put some additional dynamics on these objects. So let's just turn off the time clip for the moment. In terms of putting some additional wind blowing through the trees, there is in the tubes behavior turbulence section, there's some turbulence types. There's tree wind and grass wind, and you can really get some really nice turbulence going on. I mean, these trees, I cranked up the turbulence. We've got like a windstorm going on here. And so you need to be careful, but you can get some really nice blowing effects. In fact, also, if you need to, sometimes you might want to have an animation in like a motion graphic. You can actually go into the paint effects menus and actually make those, you can make it loopable. In fact, you can make this blowing animation loopable over, say, 50 frames. And so that's also another possible connection to the animation properties. Let's see. Finally, converting these these paint effects to polygons, you can go to the Modify, Convert, Paint Effects to Polygons. And the Paint Effects to Polygons submenu allows you to specify quad output and also the polygon limit. So you can try different poly limits. Depending on, if you're doing trees, you may get really high poly limits. And some trees may or may not convert very well. I have some lights in my scene, and got viewport 2.0 turned on. Now I can see the shadows. And in addition to that, there's a lot of shading properties that I would suggest modifying, and probably even redoing the UVs on these. But in terms of what I wanted to deliver for this video, I think that's pretty much it. Thanks so much for watching.